Hey class admins and advanced class admins, we're going to do two birds with one stone. I'm going to tell you about managing our funding categories, which is an obvious field type that you need to make sure is in order, and also legacy, that is the little L options. L in brackets represents a legacy option, and I'm going to walk you through what that means. It just so happens that you'll often have your legacy options inside funding categories, so I can show you both at once. All right, why would we have legacy options? The reason is we actually have three sources of field options in class. The first one is National Data Standards, and there are occasions where the NDS have actually overwritten or updated the actual field options. A very good example is gender. So we actually bring those options in over the top of another very standard place for options, which is the CILSIS standards. They're the ones that were already in CILSIS. And where we've had things in the CILSIS standards that need to be mapped into the new National Data Standards, we have done this. That's why you might not find the exact same wording, but you'll find that it'll still be the equivalent. But sometimes there are things in CILSIS standards that weren't in a National Data Standard, so we've added them as well. Kind of depends on the field. Some of them are brought in different ways and mapped in different ways. So some of them you often get new data standards options and CILSIS standard options, and the third one is your center's custom codes that have come in from CILSIS. Now, they're the ones that are marked with the L in brackets, and the reason is pretty simple. It's because they may create a duplicate of the new National Data Standards. Generally, you won't have a duplicate with your CILSIS standard ones because you already had them there together. But the National Data Standards options might make so that there's two of the same. And wherever possible, we want you to use the new National Data Standards. So we've marked your CILSIS custom options with an L. And so you can check it, make sure that it's in the right place, it's in the right hierarchy, it's in the right code number and everything. And then you can change it and get the L off and use it as a regular thing. That's what I'm going to show you today. So I am talking about options of fields, okay? Not that field itself, they're the options in there. Here's a field, it says legacy only. That's not the option, that's actually the whole field is legacy. It says legacy only, and so there's a couple of these throughout class. I just need you to remember that you can't write to these, that's why they're legacy fields. In this case, family type's been replaced to two other fields, no dependent children and relationship status, and they're actually on the services, so you don't need to use it anymore. But we're talking about options, not fields. So where do we find these options? We'll come back to a service, and here we are, and we can see the funding category. So it's a really good example. And I'll click on it and you'll see them CILSIS ones that are in here and across the whole country. And then towards the bottom, we start getting state option codes and also your local center codes. And they're the ones that are in an L. So we need to maybe have a look at these, fix it, update it, and change it from time to time as you get different funding streams to your center. So how do we do this? Well, it is a standard field, and a lot of these are, so we need to go to system settings and types and categories. If it was a custom field, we'd be dealing with them over here in customize. But we'll go to system settings and types and categories, and we're going to find that field, which is under F for funding category. There it was, I clicked on it. Okay, and here's the full list here. We can see immediately things that we don't use at our center, streams and things that don't exist, we can simply hide them. They might be a state code that everyone else uses or something like that. We know specialist centers will really reduce this to almost nothing, just to the one or two funding streams they may have. It's important to note a couple of things though. So the 1000s are often the Commonwealth codes, and the threes that are the state codes are usually hidden under. In this case, there's not very many. There are non-Commonwealth codes as well, and different kind of state non-CLSP. In other words, there's all these different categories that have come over the years. We can slowly fix these up over time, but for now, we're just pulling across what was in CILSIS largely. So the key to remember here is we've got Commonwealth Financial Counselling. That is a legacy code, and in this case, it's got a parent, and that's the one that's just above it. You can see it's been pushed in one level. 9501 is actually a subcategory or a child of 9500, which is Commonwealth non-CLSP project. So obviously that's some kind of funding category that you guys use. But we want to check if there's any other Commonwealth Financial Counselling in this system already. Maybe in this case there was a National Data Standards thing that has been added. I can tell you now, in funding categories, it's not the best example on this count alone. There aren't any NDS standards, but you might find them on different fields. So we have looked, and let's assume that we look carefully, and we can see that that's okay. Commonwealth Financial Counselling is by itself, no problem. We also want to make sure, is it correct that it's under the Commonwealth non-CLSP Project 1 still? You might need to change that. Maybe it's a bit old and it needs to be updated to a proper funding stream. stream in something like one of these. And so make sure you've got it right. I'm sure you'll know if you're the administrator and you know what's going on with your funding streams. So what we want to do is we've checked it, we know the parent, and let's assume that it's all correct. So we can click on 9501. We can see that that was the parent just above it, the 9500. So that's correct. That would be, if we wanted to change it, we could totally change it very easily there. And here's the code, and that in this case is correct. Again, it's not clashing. The code could clash again if it's possible if there was a national data standard duplicate. There isn't in this case. So now we can safely just remove the L and save it. And it's been customized correctly. I can come back here and just refresh this list, and I can see now that we've got that without the L, and I can tell you now, once we've refreshed the service page, you'll see that without a legacy thing saying that hasn't been dealt with yet. So that's what they're all about. Fairly easy to manage. And again, you can quite easily just add a new code here by, again though, making sure you know what the parent is and the parent code, and also making sure that the code already hasn't been taken, and it's simply a matter of going to new and filling in the required details there, the drop downs, and you need to fill that in and make sure your name's correct and everything. You can create a description. That's useful if you want particular users to, maybe not get something else mixed up, and we could just simply save that. There's also another thing there. You can hide all the standard ones. The non-standard ones, the way to hide them is just by deactivating them, by going in, clicking them, and you can untick active and save, and that will hide them. If you found a clash, this is important. Say Sidney Myer Foundation was already there, up there before you change the L, you should actually rename that old Sidney Myer Foundation or something along the line to ensure that they should use the new one wherever possible. The national data standards trump anything else at the custom level, because that would be a directly reportable thing. So you would mark that in some way or in the description, no longer to be used for new services or clients. All right, that's all I've got.